The Self-Publishing Advice Conference, SelfPubCon 2025, brings indie authors from around the world together for 2 days of insight, inspiration, and connection. It's live online October 18 and 19 and free to attend. Get early access to our international competition and all the latest conference updates at selfpublishingadvice.org/conference-2025. Welcome to Self-Publishing with ALLi from the Alliance of Independent Authors. This week, it's our member Q&A, where ALLi members have their most pressing publishing questions analyzed and answered. And here are your hosts, Ronn and Sacha Black.
Hello, and welcome to Self-Publishing with ALLi, your hottest destination for answering your hottest self-publishing questions from the beginning of your self-publishing career all the way down to today. So my name is Ronn. I'm joined by Sacha Black. How are you, Sacha?
Hello. I'm okay. I'm a little bit huskier than normal because we went to a theme park last week and I screamed myself silly. And so I have sounded like I have been a long-term smoker for the last week. But other than that, I'm delightful. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So the question is, which roller coaster took away your voice?
So probably the first one. It's called Hyperia, and it is the tallest and fastest, I think, roller coaster in Europe. It's a new one at Thorpe Park, and I got off and I felt drunk because I'd been spun around so many times. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like it's a lot of corkscrews and all the fun stuff that makes you.
Exactly.
Well, good. Well, we'll put up with your husky voice today. It's always worth a good roller coaster.
I think it's nice. I think I quite like it. I wish I was like this all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay. So don't waste a good opportunity. Now's a good time to record an audiobook.
Yeah, exactly.
I forget who I was talking to where their voice was super husky and they're like, yeah, I totally need to record an audiobook. Well, I sound like this. I just need to do
I'd love to
the sultriest romance or erotica book I can, and don't just don't waste a good opportunity. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, our first question is from member Fran. We answered Fran's question last month, but we missed a piece of it, and that was my fault. So I wanted to bring it back to make sure we answered her question. And Fran is a new author, and she's working on an audiobook. And her question is, when she finishes her audiobook, what is the best way to promote it, given that she has a new platform and doesn't have probably the big newsletter or the things that some of the other authors have when they're promoting their audiobooks. So the question is, if you were a new author finishing your first audiobook, how would you promote it?
Exactly the same way I promote every other book. I promote the story more than I do the formats. So I just ensure that the formats are available, and then I, just promote the story. I market the emotions that are in the book, the hook, the 1-2 punch for the tagline, in marketing copy or adverts or social media. Obviously, that's not a wildly helpful comment because, of course, she's going to promote the book. So to give you specific things, I suppose you could go onto social media. Even though you yourself don't have vast quantities of followers, you can go and hunt and target audiobook listeners. Use hashtags like audiobooks or audio listener or, whatever. You can go and have a look. Use Google to find some hashtags in and around audiobooks. Go and have a look at audiobook companies like Podium and see what hashtags they're using. Then in those hashtags, go and look for reviewers who are reviewing similar sorts of books, similar genres, and then reach out. Ask them if they would like if you've got some audiobook, what are they called? Like tokens or credits or whatever.
Promo codes.
When you can give your audio. Yeah, promo codes, that's it. So then use your promo codes, give them to the people that you think are the most likely to enjoy your book and actually do something with it. Like, you know, have they got a record and a history of having promoted other audiobooks? Like, those are the kinds of things that I would do. Like, unfortunately, if you're in a position where you don't have a newsletter, you don't have a big following, then it's sweat equity that you have to do. Unless you're going to do paid advertising, you could arguably do paid advertising for your audiobooks and send them straight to ACX or Spotify or wherever you're promoting, distributing and selling your book. But if you don't want to do paid advertising, then it is sweat equity and you have to make those connections with readers in the early stages. The other thing that you could do is you could go to Facebook and have a look for genre-specific reader groups. You do need to check the rules and regulations in those reader groups. Some will allow you to post, some only have certain days that you're allowed to post on, but do a request. That's what I did. So I started Ruby in 2023 and I spent a long time looking for street team people, looking for people to listen or to review digital copies or whatever. And I went into lots of these Facebook groups and spent some time doing that. The last idea that I've got is sometimes places like BookFunnel and Story Origin run promotional campaigns, and I believe some of them are audio focused, or you could suggest to them that they set up an audio focused one. And then you could work with other authors, and then that is also a mechanism for you to make connections with other authors. And actually, that's something else that you could do. You could go to other authors who maybe have slightly more followers than you. You know, don't go to the giants in your genre because they're not going to say yes to you. But you could go to, you know, peer authors or authors that are slightly ahead of you and see if they might be willing to share the fact that you have got some promo codes for audiobooks for a book that's similar to what they've written with their readers, for example. So that's something else that you could do. But essentially, it's about connections and making those connections and reaching out to people, and be prepared to get a lot of no's. Like when I started Ruby, I hid the fact that I was Sacha. So it's obviously Sacha already had an audience, but I hid the fact that I was Sacha. I cannot tell you the number of no's I got. It was like wild number of no's, but I just kept going. And I basically set my goal to get 100, give away 100 copies. And I just about managed it, but it was blooming hard.
Yeah, especially when you're starting. But, you know, I love everything you said. I mean, it is sweat equity. I think that the biggest mistake you can make is to not talk about your audiobook. Like, just make the audiobook as visible as you can make it. At any time you're promoting the book, tell people it's available on audio, because it's amazing sometimes that readers don't know. So, for example, one of the things that I see a lot of authors do, and I do this as well, is on my website, I have a dedicated page for audiobooks. So when a reader lands on my page for the first time, they know that I have audiobooks. And that's a very specific type of reader. There are some readers who only read in audio. So if your book is not available in audio, you're kind of out of sight, out of mind. I mean, they just will not read it. So you have to speak to those readers and let them know that your book is in audio. And then there are some readers who will read in any format, but audio might tip the scales for them a little bit. So on your book page, make sure it's clear that the book is in audio. Put it in the copy, available in ebook, paperback, and audio. You know, if you have logos of where your book is available, be sure to put the Audible and Spotify logos on there next to Amazon and Google and Kobo. You know, make sure that if you use not Findaway Voices, but Draft to Digital's Books to Read. If you do Books to Read links, make sure that you have all your audio links filled out in there. So just make sure that the audiobook is constantly visible for anyone that does it. When you run sales on the book, you know, and you send something out to your newsletter, let them know that it's also available in audio, even if the audiobook might not be discounted. Just my rule of thumb is you can never talk about your audiobook enough.
Yeah, I had a couple of other ideas. You could also reach out to the narrators. Narrators, I'm finding, are becoming more and more social media savvy. There are a few who are really quite good at sharing, and they build up their own followers. Sometimes people will listen to an audiobook purely because they love the narrator's voice. So I would reach out to your narrators as well and see if they might be willing to do some kind of collaboration. And then the other thing that you can do is, yes, I'm hearing you saying you don't have many social media followers, but the only way you build them is by posting. So I would also say, share snippets of audio on your social media.
Yeah, that's great. That's another great idea. I had a few other ideas, and then we can kind of move on. So hopefully we're giving you something, Fran, that you can use. Also talk to your librarians, local libraries. Sometimes they are also looking for ways to serve their patrons. And if assuming your book is available wide, right? Because you can go exclusive to Audible or you can go non-exclusive. You might be able to, your local library might be interested. Again, just be prepared to hear no a lot, but you can find, folks at your local libraries to see if they would potentially be interested. I know that librarians are always looking for titles that are available on Libby. It seems like Libby, Overdrive, I'm not sure what you guys use across the pond, but Libby, Overdrive, those seem to be like a really good bright spot in a lot of library distributions. So try that. And then also there's, don't forget BookBub. So assuming you've got a good cover, good book description, good hook, try to submit to BookBub and some of the other audio places that also promote audiobooks. So I think BookBub is Chirp, right? That's what BookBub uses. Yeah, but don't forget BookBub. I mean, you could still submit for a BookBub, and that will help your audio sales. I don't remember if you can submit individually for Chirp or not, but you could look into that. It's basically a newsletter service where people sign up to get deals for audiobooks every day.
It's only in America, though.
It's only in, I forgot about that. Yeah. But I wouldn't rule it out.
That's the only restriction.
I wouldn't rule it out.
No,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's something that you could try. I know there are other services like I don't know if they're still around, but I used to use Audiobook Boom for a while. They were kind of like a mini BookBub. You basically pitch your book, and if they select it, they send it to their list of readers. So I know that there are services out there like that. There aren't as many, though, as there are on the ebook and paperback side. But, you got to build your audiobook audience one reader at a time, one listener at a time. It definitely is sweat equity. That's the kind of the theme of the conversation. And honestly, I think the best thing you can do, just let people know it's out there, and it's a long-term thing. And then as you release more audiobooks, your backlist becomes more attractive. Okay. Next question is from William. William says, I have an urban fantasy vampire novella that has a paranormal protector and the unrequited-love trope. When marketing, I've worried about accidentally making readers think it's a romance and discovering that it isn't. It's more about the treatment of neurodivergent individuals and that the protagonist isn't entitled to the person that they protect. Any advice on marketing this book?
Don't use the unrequited love trope in the marketing. Obviously, it's in there as a subplot, fine. But if the minute you use the word love in any format, even if it's unrequited love, as a die-hard romance reader, if I read unrequited love, I would assume that by the end they were together, and therefore it's a romance. So I would just tell you just not to use that trope in the marketing, and let them discover that there's a subplot. I think you are in more danger of attracting romance readers by using unrequited love as a trope in your marketing than you are upsetting non-romance readers for there being a subplot of romance or not romance in the book.
I would just, I mean, romance and unrequited love is kind of an oxymoron, really. I mean, if you think about it, I would stay well away from including it. And William, I think you kind of answered it in your question. I think you're right to point it out. I think you're thinking about this the right way. I would stay away from the unrequited love in your marketing. And that's doubly...
But just to be clear, we're not saying... Sorry.
No, go ahead, Sacha.
I was just going to say, just to be clear, we're not saying you can't have it in your book.
No.
We're just saying don't put it in the marketing.
Yeah. Because like I said, I mean, unrequited love means that, to me, means that they don't get together, right? It means that one is pining more for the other who doesn't want them. So, yeah, I mean, that just doesn't feel romancy to me. But it's your book. Write what you want to write. Just, we always have to be careful about how we market it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. Next question is from Tom. And this is an interesting question. How do I get a tax exemption for purchasing authors' copies of my books on Kindle Direct Publishing?
A tax exemption?
Yeah,
You don't.
I've never
What do you
heard
mean
of that.
tax exemption? We don't pay VAT on books anyway.
No. In some, so here in the States, like I think what Tom is referring to is like there are some nonprofits that are tax exempt. So when they make purchases, they have to provide like a certificate or something like that shows that they are like a nonprofit organization or an exempt organization, and they don't pay tax on anything that they purchase. And so I have not heard of that in the publishing. I have not heard of that, Tom. It looks like Tom is in Tennessee. So
right.
What I would do, Tom, I think your best bet is you would have to reach out to Amazon and ask them if they have some sort of program that allows you to do that. Again, I've never heard of that. I know that there are a lot of authors that donate their profits and stuff to nonprofits, but I haven't heard of someone becoming like a tax exempt status. So if anybody knows the answer to that, it would be Amazon.
Yeah, or an accountant is the only other person I could think of.
Yeah, but even an accountant is not going to be able to help you. I mean,
no.
I mean, they might be able to help you ask the right question. Like that might be the thing. The accountant can help you like ask, what do I need to ask them to get to the right person? But, as with all companies, just getting to somebody sometimes can be a challenge. So,
yeah.
Okay. Next question is from Jack. And Jack asks, let's see. No. Sorry, I had the wrong one here. The next question is from Barbara. Barbara says, I am designing the front and back cover of my children's book, Neil the Seal. I have an endorsement from Sea Life Trust, a large charity in Poole, UK. They are endorsing my book and letting me use their logo on the cover. My question is this.
Wow.
Where do I place their logo? On the front or the back? And is there anything I should be aware of when using their logo? Yeah. Okay.
Has she got explicit written permission to use the logo? Are there any caveats around how she can use it? Because sometimes, what if she were to sell 500,000 copies? Have they got the extended license used for the logo? All of those kinds of questions. So I would just be doubly, triply, 1,000% sure she's got it in writing. Save that email or that permissions in like 3 or 4 different places, print it off, make sure you've kept it. I would put it on the back personally. I wouldn't put it on the front. And I would also, so the only thing that I would slightly raise a concern over is Amazon, because very occasionally Amazon can ask if you've got the license or the right, if you own the copyright to be able to use a certain logo. And I feel like that might be something that they would flash up. So you just doubly make sure you've got it very clear in an email that you can then submit to Amazon that has clear permissions. But I mean, would you put it on the front?
I would not put it on the front. I mean, I don't have a line of sight into this charity. It sounds like it's a big deal, though.
They're a big. They do
And
like
really
aquariums.
Cool. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, that's
it's very cool.
It's definitely something to use in your marketing. In fact, one thing that I would suggest, probably the back of the book makes sense. I would be putting that in the book description, though. Like I would put that somewhere in the book description. I mean, maybe could you even put it on your A+ content, like on your Amazon sales page?
Yeah.
Look up A+ content and see if that's something you could potentially use, just to get it on your sales page somewhere. Because if you put it on your back cover, it's not going to be on the sales page, right?
Well, unless you put it also on the sales page.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, it sounds like it's a big deal, but everything that you pointed out, Sacha, I think is correct. A long time ago, I worked with it was a brand, and they had very specific like ways that you could and couldn't use their logo, like in your marketing and stuff. And I remember that being like it was part of the contract. Like when I signed the contract, I basically agreed that they would let me use a logo, but it had to be under these conditions. And so if you signed anything, it would be really helpful if you had that on file in case Amazon, said something crazy. It would be even better if you had like a letter or something from somebody that said, we're allowing you to do this. And then that way, if the algorithms come down on you, you can provide some information, and I think it would go away pretty quickly. But yeah, that's an amazing endorsement. I mean, I think you're right, Barb, to kind of use this as much as you possibly can. I mean, and don't forget, put it on your website too. Make sure you put it everywhere you can, if it's going to help you sell some books. Okay. Next question is from Tom. I have books published on Amazon, most with an ISBN rather than Amazon's ISBN. I would like to make ebooks. What is the best format, and what software do I need to use to use new ISBNs with my ebook versions?
Well, I'm not, so I wouldn't connect ISBNs to software. You just put the ISBN in the metadata on Amazon. But in terms of software for formatting ebooks, I would say the two most popular are Vellum if you have a Mac or Apple product, and Atticus if you're on a PC. Now, there are lots of other. Both of those are paid options. There are lots of free options like Draft2Digital, for example, and I believe Readsy also have free templates that you can use that you can then put into their systems that will then spit out an EPUB file, which is the correct ebook file. But I'm not quite sure. Do you know why they've connected ISBN to software?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I would say, before we even go down that route, I would just say, just remember, you need a separate ISBN for your ebook. So you cannot use the same ISBN for your print books that you're using for your ebooks. So I just want to make sure we clarify that. But yeah, I agree. If you want to create an ebook, Atticus or Vellum is your answer. If you're a glutton for punishment, then maybe Adobe InDesign. But that's a bit too much firepower for most people. Okay. Next question is from Omar. Omar says, I've been reading through ALLi's guidebooks and listening to ALLi's podcasts, and it seems that whenever the topic of translating books and selling them in non-English markets come up, the talk of licensing rights to foreign publishers, that's always the focus. Is there a viable path without foreign rights licensing?
Yes, there is. So there is a lady on and I'm going to have to go and get the podcast name. I think it's the Indie Writers Club, and they did an episode recently. I'm just looking up the show. I'm pretty sure it's called the Indie Writers Club. It's James Blatch and it is James Blatch and Cara Clare. And Cara has been using, I want to say it's called Scribe Shadow. I think it's Scribe Shadow. Anyway, in the last month, they've got a really detailed episode on what she has done to translate her books rapidly into multiple languages, and how she's making a killing off of it. So that, just as another form of input, that's one thing that you could go and listen to. Now, what I believe the softwares are doing is using AI to do the translations. Not everybody agrees with that, so that may not be a path for you. That's okay. Lots of people are doing that. They're then chucking them into Kindle Unlimited and then throwing ad money at them, and that is really successful for some people. But obviously, it's not a path that everybody would want to do. So if you don't want to license your translations and you don't want to use AI, then your best bet is to go with a human translator. And that is going to cost you some level of money. It will probably, depending on what language and how busy and how popular this translator is, it could stretch into the thousands. Well, no, not could. It will stretch into the thousands. One thing that I will say is that most people who are doing well with translations have their whole series complete. They are also sort of releasing the whole series in a bump, because most people don't make their money back on one book. So when you look at hiring a translator, you're not really looking at hiring a translator for one book. You're looking at 3, 4, 5. So that is a much bigger investment. Obviously, I'm speaking directly to genre fiction authors. I'm not speaking to non-fiction authors here, and I'm not speaking to memoir or literary fiction. Obviously, that's a different kettle of fish. So this is for the broad brush main people who do write genre fiction. So you can commission a translator, and you can find them in all kinds of places, from, on Facebook. You can find them on Readsy. You can find them by talking to other authors and asking who they used. Quite often you'll actually, I have been approached a number of times at reader events by translators, conferences, in-person events. Translators are often found at those kinds of events as well. So I would say they are your main options at the moment: human translator, a AI translator, and or AI translator with a human editor afterwards. Some of the software people are finding they don't even need an editor afterwards, but that obviously is a very controversial thing to say. I'm not suggesting at all that everybody should do that or that it's the right thing to do. I'm just saying it's an option. And then you have got licensing the rights. I think those are probably the main ones right now.
Yeah. I would say that, it's your choice on whether you want to use AI or not to translate your books. I think the reason in the past we've kind of focused on foreign rights licensing is that, the emergence of AI for translation it's not new, but it's relatively new. I mean, this has been around for a little bit, but I feel like we're starting to kind of see a lot more companies pop up and serve authors with translation, just because the large language models are getting faster and they're getting better and they're getting cheaper. And so I think you're going to see more of this as time goes on. But, not that long ago, maybe 3-4 years ago, this really wasn't an option. And so your really only choice was to hire a human narrator or human translator. I'm sorry, I'm still in audiobook brain. Was to hire a human translator.
I know, me too.
I know. A human translator. And, I think we can all agree, as you laid out, Sacha, they are not cheap. And the other issue is that when you do a translation, you really kind of need the translator to help you with the marketing, because in a perfect world, you want somebody who understands the market that you're translating to. And if you translate your books into French, but you don't know the first thing about French culture, it's going to be really hard to make your money back, because you're not going to be speaking to those readers in in ways that they understand, just with your marketing, with your cover, with your just everything. So that I think even if you can get something AI translated, remains an issue. And maybe people having success in Kindle Unlimited and ads, maybe that's a viable path. I never thought about that. That's actually a really good idea. So, but yeah, I mean, no matter what you do, you still need some sort of ongoing marketing assistance. So however you choose to, whichever cup you choose to drink from, human or AI, or a mixture of both. Some people do that as well. They have an AI translate the book, and then they have a translator follow up, with it. You still need that marketing assistance. To me, that's the real issue. Translating a book is really not that complicated. But what do you do with the translation, I think, is how do you market it is always the issue. Okay, Sacha, it is time. We need like a little theme song or something. It's time for that question we get all the time. And that is, how do we find the IngramSpark revision code?
Oh, okay. It's a slight variation. Well done. Bravo. So you log into the member account and you navigate to discounts and deals, and then you type in your company, or you put in a search parameter, or you can go to category and then click into the organization, which is IngramSpark in this instance, and the code will be right there for you.
Yes. And don't forget, the code changes regularly. So if it's been a minute since you've used it, you need to go back in and get the new one. Now, for those who don't know what we're talking about, IngramSpark offers ALLi members a essentially free revision up to, I think, 5 revisions a month. Don't quote me on that number because it's always subject to change. But as you know, it's free to set up titles on IngramSpark now. There's no longer a setup fee. But if you do want to make revisions after, I believe, 60 days or 30 to 60 days, again, don't quote me on this because it's been a minute since I've used it myself. But if you want to make revisions to a book that you've already published, there is a fee for that. And Ingram very kindly waives that for ALLi members. So if you'd like to get that, just follow the instructions that Sacha said, and you'll save yourself some money, which I think is one of our great benefits here at ALLi.
I do too.
Okay. Next question is from Roy. And Roy says, I have tried several different AI software packages as I want to design my own illustrations. On some, I'm happy with the image generated, but in others, not so much. Any advice you have on generating AI images? Now, again, before we answer this, AI is your choice, whether you choose to use it or not. We highly recommend that you're ethical about it to the best that one can be ethical, given all the concerns that are floating around. So if you're not into AI as a design, that's fine, but we're going to answer this from a perspective of somebody who is. Okay, so yeah, thank you for the caveats. Totally agree. So from a completely objective answering the question perspective, I would say you could use AI to help you use AI, which is very meta, but you could go to GPT, for example, and ask GPT to write you a prompt for the type of thing that you're looking for. And then you could tell it, the image didn't quite come out right. It came out looking more like this when I'm after that. And then ask it to revise the prompt for you. So that's something that you could do. The other thing that you could do is you could literally have a search. You could have a search online, look at some YouTubes, ask people, the phrasing. Are there certain phrases? How do you prompt, do the YouTube search or the Google search on how do you prompt GPT or prompt Midjourney or whatever option it is that you're using? How do you prompt it effectively? Midjourney in particular, on its website, it has examples with the prompt that they've used. So you could also have a little look on there to see what prompts have worked effectively, like in the wording and the phrasing of them. So that is something else. I don't know. I'm a bit out of answers now. I think that's probably... Also, go listen to Joanna Penn because she knows loads about AI. Yeah, yeah. So based on the question, I didn't read the full question. It sounds like the user may be using Midjourney. So what I would do, Midjourney can be really, really cool, but it can also be really, really maddening because it doesn't always follow your instructions. So there's a YouTube channel that I follow. It's actually a really good channel that's given me a lot of advice. It's called Future Tech Pilot. And that's all he does. He only focuses on Midjourney for the most part. And he talks about prompting, and he has some really, really amazing art. And he gets a lot of art from people in his community that kind of give him tips. And so he kind of learns from his audience. So maybe check him out, and that might give you some ideas. But I think with Midjourney, the big thing is just ideas. Like, you just need to expose. You almost have to commit to doing it every day, even if you're not going to generate art that you're going to use in any way. Just almost as a like tuition, like as a way to learn how it actually works. Because Midjourney kind of has its own unique, atmosphere. It's definitely it's not difficult to use, but it can be difficult to master. So I would start there, and then there's a Reddit Midjourney or Midjourney Reddit as well that you might be able to get some feedback from. And yeah, it's just a trial and error thing, really. You've got to generate a lot of images for one particular prompt sometimes before you get the thing that you like. I am seeing a huge increase in quality from ChatGPT image generation. So from DALL-I, I just over the past month, I saw some images coming out of that. I'm like, whoa, I almost didn't believe they came out of DALL-I. So there's something, I don't know how they're doing it, but there's something going on there that you might want to look into. But as always with AI, I always just, the thing is, you really want to be careful that you're not infringing on any copyrights. And so no matter how you generate your images, you've really got to do some due diligence to make sure that you're not doing that. And that's a lot harder now because all these models were trained on copyrighted work. And, the verdict is still out on whether or not they were allowed to do that. And so anytime you're using AI, particularly images, less so with some other forms, but anytime you're using AI, you're always taking that little bit of a risk. And so we just want people to understand that and know that these tools are great and they're fun to use. And in some cases, there's a really good business use for them. But in other cases, there may not be. So just tread carefully. Okay. I'll take this question, Sacha. So this is from member Lisa. Have other authors received copyright certificates without approval signature by the librarian in charge? Have you heard of this issue, and do you have any advice on how best to proceed? No, Lisa, I have not heard of this issue. I'm not aware of it. I would, I always hate to recommend that people talk to a copyright attorney just because there'd be a bit of an expense to it. But that's probably your best bet. That, or you could check some copyright forums and see if other people have had this issue. It's a pretty niche issue, so I wish you the best of luck, but I unfortunately don't have an answer on that. Okay, next question, and this is our final question, Sacha. This is from Richard, and Richard asks, what is the best self-publishing company in the United States?
I don't know, but you could go and have a look at ALLi's partner directory. We also have what's the document that we compile every year called?
It's our self-publishing services directory.
Yeah. And then we've also got the the member portal where you can then go and look up services, and also we have ratings. So that is what I would suggest that you do, is you have a look at the ratings, you have a look at our partner members, because of course they have gone through a very rigorous vetting check. So that would be my advice. I personally don't use a self-publishing company because I can do it myself. So I would ask you first, do you need one? Could you do it yourself by building your own team around you? If not, then I would go straight to the partner directory because they're our trusted, approved partners.
I'm going to make a hot take. I'm going to say that the best publishing company, self-publishing company in the world is the author. That to me is the right answer, and it's why we exist, right? As ALLi members, as ALLi as an organization, it's because of that, Sacha. Like, we can do it better in many cases than a publisher, and so that's why we exist. That's why we have all these resources to help folks do that. And so, my this is Michael Ron's opinion. This is not an official ALLi position, but I think that the vast majority, like, I don't know, 80 to 85% of authors probably would be better served just doing it themselves. Long term, I think that would be a good thing. Now, that 15%, pick your poison. But there are some people that maybe can't, you can't self-publish, or, maybe you've got health issues, or maybe there are some authors, that contact us sometimes. They've only got 1 or 2 books in them. I think those authors would be best served by getting some additional help and assistance. But I think if you truly want to kind of build that career that you see in your head, I think that's possible for everybody. It's certainly possible, and we've kind of given the tools, and we've got a lot of members that have kind of walked that path, and that's Michael Ron's hot take only. So if there are any pitchforks, come get me. Don't come get ALLi. But I just think there's just so many things that go right when an author can figure out how to be their best advocate. And it's not to throw shade on traditional publishing, but at the end of the day, even if you go TradPub, you still got to do the marketing for the most part. So, so it's like, well, if I have...
And for a lower ROI.
Now, that's not to say that, they can't knock it out of the park and, make a lot of money. But, like I said, if I'm going to have to not all the work, but if I'm going to have to do most of the work, I might as well keep most of the equity. But I'm sure we have litigated that so many times that I'm preaching to the choir for most people listening. But check out all the services we offer, and we believe that you can do this yourself if you choose to do that. Okay, well, we are at the bottom of another episode. Thank you all for listening to Self-Publishing with ALLi. This has been our member Q&A podcast. And if you would like to ask a question, you just might hear it on the air. As an ALLi member, if you're an ALLi member, please go to your dashboard, log in, and on your menu navigation, you will see Submit a Question for the podcast. And that'll take you to a Google form where you can submit your question, give us as much information as you like, and you just might hear your question on the air. So thank you again for listening, and we'll be back next month with more questions. Thanks, Sacha.
Bye.
You've been listening to Self-Publishing with ALLi with Michael Ronn and Sacha Black. Our weekly self-publishing advice podcast is produced by the Alliance of Independent Authors. Find more author advice, tips, and tools at our Self-Publishing Advice Center, selfpublishingadvice.org. And if you haven't already, we invite you to join our organization and become a self-publishing ally. You can do that at allianceindependentauthors.org.